And now it is my pleasure to introduce our commencement speaker this morning. We are honored to welcome Curtis Loftis, Jr., State Treasurer of the great state of South Carolina, as our commencement speaker. Mr. Loftis is currently serving his third term and is considered as the state's private banker with custody of more than $40 billion of public funds. Since taking office, he has been a champion for pension reform and has worked to return more than $150 million in unclaimed funds back to the people of South Carolina, more than all previous treasurers combined. And for that, I thank you. We have also bore witness to his efforts to grow the state's Future Scholar Savings Plan to help families save for college. He is also a sought-after speaker for various groups in the financial world and has been featured in numerous publications like the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, Bloomberg, Institutional Investor, and Bond Buyer. He is the chair of the State Board of Financial Institutions, the vice chair of the State Fiscal Accountability Authority, and vice chair for the South Carolina Education Authority. He has held leadership positions in the National Association of State Treasurers and the National Association of Unclaimed Property Administrators. Please join me in welcoming the Treasurer of our state, the Honorable Curtis Loftis, Jr.
It's never a good thing when you go off script before you even start. But, Mr. President, I want to thank you for having me here. In the last 2 or 3 months, I see my assistant over here, he'll know about this. In the last 2 or 3 months, I've had the pleasure, but also the discomfort of dealing on the national level on some issues that aren't pleasant. They've been disconcerting. And so when I came here this morning, of course I was glad to be here, but to be in this wonderful town with you people means more to me right now than you'll ever know. This is what America is about. And thank you for having me, Mr. President. Thank you very much. I want to be honest. Since I'm being honest, I was not a particularly good student. I was one of those who could do just enough to get by, and I did. I was from a family of entrepreneurs, and when I started at Carolina, I didn't partake, I guess is the word, with that traditional college experience. I didn't see myself working for IBM or a big bank. So I thought, this is really, for me, it's like a finishing school for wannabe tycoons. And that's how I looked at college. And of course, you look back and you know all about hindsight, right? I found time to be the president of my fraternity. I found time to be the president of a couple of organizations like the Student Senate. And I enjoyed myself. I attended the classes that I thought were best for me. I remember sneaking into some of them with a hat and wearing a pair of Ray-Bans because the professors were better at that class than the class I was supposed to attend. But that was college in the late 70s. College in the late 70s was completely different. America was different. The world was different. College was very inexpensive. There were fewer rules. Now, you students, you new graduates are going to appreciate this. You may be jealous. But at that time, we had until the last 2 weeks of the semester to drop a class without a penalty. Can you imagine? I didn't have to declare my major until the last semester of school. So for all of us that had academic careers like mine, we're adding up, saying, where do we go here? How do we make this work? So I'm 60 years old now. That was 38 years ago when I was able to slither through the system, which was a carefree system back then. And of course, your experience will be different. The world has changed, academia has changed, but people haven't. I hope you'll be able to relate to this little story. I was particularly enthused. I was really excited. I was so excited about a particular class that I actually registered for it on time, and I bought my books, and I was ready to go. I had this class. It was really important to me because it was about small business. There was a plan, though, and the plan had a wrinkle in it. I could not stand the professor as I look at the professors. I didn't like him. I couldn't find anything about this fellow that I liked. And this was my class. This was the class that I wanted. He called the roll every day before class. I thought that was certainly an abridgment of my constitutional rights, that he would have to check up and see if we were there, because this was the one class I was actually registered in and was going to go to. My distaste for him was visceral. It was in my DNA. About halfway through the class, halfway through the semester, I realized this can't be right. He's living in my head. This has got to be a better class. There's got to be more to it. At the end of the semester, or about 3 or 4 weeks before the end of the semester, I realized I was wrong. I mean, nobody could have such an irrational thought. Nobody could look at a class that I wanted to take and come away with so little. So I studied hard, and I studied long. I went to see him a couple times. You just don't know how hard that was for me. But I did really well in the class. And for the next 20 years, that knowledge I gained about being in business, I assumed and believed that it was because of my hard work. I believed it was because I was smart and that I knew how to do that. I retired from business in 2000 and had time to go travel the world. I did a lot of traveling, just climbing some mountains, and I did a lot of humanitarian work. I had time to think. And that was when it began to occur to me that maybe I was wrong about a few things. That maybe this professor was not this insignificant fellow that I thought he was. He had been right on so many subjects. It took me 20 years to find out. He had been right on things that no one else was talking about. In 1980, he was talking about the information age. He was talking about how we were going to be overrun with information, that it would come to us from all sides. It took 20 years before the newspapers all around the world were talking about that on a daily basis. So it finally occurred to me that it was not my genius. It was his excellence as a teacher. It occurred to me that had I had a chance to see him and talk to him, that I would be able to tell him all the good things that I thought about his class. Well, I actually did see him. I ran into him at a USC event. I went over, introduced myself. I've got this history in my head. I say hello, and I introduced myself again. He just looked at me again. I said, I had your class in 1980. He couldn't remember me, which of course makes perfect sense. I thought I'd tell him I'm the state treasurer. He didn't know I was the state treasurer and wasn't sure we elected our state treasurers. I don't know if he had figured out the way the ultimate revenge he could have on me or not, but I was able to tell him how much I appreciate what he did. One of the classes he told me, and he had for us, and I was able to speak to him about, was the importance of saying no. Now, to a lot of people, you just don't think about that. I know that there are certain classes here, philosophy classes probably will talk about this a lot. But the ability to say no is one of the most important aspects of a successful life. It's a key to a successful life. Now, he taught that, and he taught that well. In our class, of course, because it was about business, he taught us how to say no to new business. He would say how to say no to new customers, no to new opportunities. And it was difficult for me to understand because I wanted a bigger business. I thought, well, I can't get a big business by saying no. But as the years wore on, I understand that he was exactly right. The lesson was saying no. When you say yes, you set your priorities. When you say no, you set boundaries. You can easily find yourself in trouble. In fact, most of the trouble I've ever found myself in life was when I didn't make the correct decision. I said yes when I should have said no. The billionaire Warren Buffett said that the difference between successful people and very successful people is that very successful people say no to almost everything. When I read that first, I had to think of that about a long time. And boy, is it brilliant. The celebrated life coach Ashley Stahl says, I now live my life in a zone, and that zone is either hell yeah or hell no. There is no in between. Our old friend, Pythagoras, said the oldest and shortest words are yes and no, and those are the ones that require the most thought. And the quote that I have the most, the quote that I think would mean the most to the students is the quote from Snoop Dogg, but I can't say it here. You'll have to look that up on your own. Our lives are nothing but a series of choices. They're often presented without notice. They're shrouded in peer pressure and bias and emotion. They come oftentimes with an illogical and incorrect fact pattern. Sometimes we have to make a decision in a split second. Saying no can be difficult. Saying yes is easy. When you're too generous with your yeses, other people take your concerns. They make their priority your priority. They take your time away from what's important. Lacking the discipline to say no means you won't have time for rest and recovery. And that will cause you frustration and stress. Look around you, we live in a world of frustration and stress. Saying yes to the noise of modern life means you're actually saying no to those important things that you really want. No amount of education or talent or training will allow you the success that you deserve if you don't have the time and the energy for the extraordinary life that's in all of you. Each of you possesses dreams. Some you've told your friends about, some you haven't. Some of them are just fragments. You know there's something special rattling around in your soul. You're not sure what it is, but it will come out. I promise you that. Achieving these dreams may not land you in Wikipedia. It may not make you the lead story in the newspaper. It may not make you a lot of money. But your dream is important to you, and it's worth trying. It takes hard work, determination, and resilience. So knowingly and willfully saying yes to your dreams is the only way that you can pursue that which is bigger than you. It won't be easy, but you, the graduates of Lander, have two advantages. One that you've earned and one that's a gift. It's really a blessing. Firstly, you've earned a degree from Lander University, an outstanding institution recognized for its excellence. Your Lander degree represents the aforementioned hard work, determination, and resilience, and it will provide you with the opportunities that you have yet to imagine. But secondly is your blessing. It's the thing you didn't earn, but will help you for the rest of your life. And simply put, it's location, location, location. You live here in America. Having left the shores of this country over 125 times for business, personal, or humanitarian reasons, I can say without fear, without hesitation, you're blessed to live in the greatest country on this earth. America will afford you every opportunity to live your potential, to strive for your success, and to reach your dreams. When you're my age, you will look back on your life and you'll say, God Almighty has personally blessed me with the privilege that is coveted by billions of people around the world. You were given residency in this country. So take your degree, march out that door, bathe in the freedoms and the opportunities of this country, say yes to your dreams, and thank God you live in the United States of America. Thank you very much and good luck.